Welcome everyone into my channel SaskiYano with UMD. If this is your first visit to our channel, make sure to subscribe and turn on the notification button. Do not forget to leave your feedback and your suggestions down below in the comments. This will help me to improve the content of our channel. In this video, we are going to go over how to export a broadcast quality video file, such as a QuickTime file, directly out of After Effects using the render queue. So, to start I will go to the project panel and double-click on the composition I would like to output. So, I will double-click on the pollinators comp, which will make the timeline panel actives. Now when I grab the current time indicator and scrub, you can see this is an animated title that I want to output. Now before I go to the render queue, I always look at the bottom of the project panel. And I will click on this button so you can see what I am talking about. I want to make note of the bit depth for broadcast quality graphics. 8 bits per channel is the absolute minimum. If I click on this drop down, you will notice I could choose 16 bits per channel or even 32 bits per channel float. It is important to know what the setting is, because only specific codecs will allow you to render at these different bit depth levels. OK, I will go ahead and click OK, and to add this file to my export, I need to click on the timeline. Go over to the composition and choose Add to Render Queue. The render queue will pop up here. And you will notice there are 3 main sections. Let us start with the render settings. Here I will click on the blue text say Best Settings. I will leave the quality set the best and the resolution set to full. A setting you might change regularly is this drop down here for time span. You can render just the work area or the length of the comp. For this specific project, it does not matter because they are both exactly the same. If I want to choose a custom duration, I can do that by clicking the custom button over here. I will click OK and move on to the output module. Click on the word lossless, and that will open the module settings. Up at the top enter format, click on the drop down and make sure you have chosen QuickTime. That will be the default on the Mac, but maybe not on Windows. Now after that go to the format options here in the video output section. When I click on that button, go to the video codec drop down. Notice I have several different codecs I can choose. Codecs experience for compress decompress. Now since I am only working in 8-bit, I can go ahead and choose Apple ProRes 422, and that will be perfectly fine. If I were working with high dynamic range footage, I would want to choose something like Apple ProRes 4x4. I would also choose that if I were rendering a graphic with an alpha channel. Other popular codecs are DNxHR, DNxHD, and GoPro Signform. But let us choose Apple ProRes 422 and click OK. We can leave the default audio settings set up and then click OK. If we go to the output to section, this is where we can name our files. So, I want you to click on the name for the blue text there. And I will call this one. And I am rendering it to my renders folder, which is in my export broadcast quality video folder. Then I will click save. To create an additional file without necessarily having a second render, you can click this plus button here next output to. Then go back to the new output module and click on the word lossless to open its settings. If you are on Windows, you will need to make sure QuickTime is chosen from the format drop-down menu. Then click on the format options button. Now you can change the drop-down for the video codec to DNxHR DNxHD. Notice that resolution will default to the HQ 8-bit, which will be perfect. Go ahead and click OK and click OK one more time. And to render this, just click the render button. Notice the render bar is only going to travel across the screen once. But if I jump into my Rangers folder, you will notice I have created 2 different high-quality renders directly out of After Effects utilizing the render queue. What you learned. Export a broadcast quality video file. Note the bit depth settings in your project 1. Click the project settings button in the bottom of the project panel to open the color settings and to find out the bit depth of your project. Higher settings like 16 or 32 bits will require specific codec settings when you render your project. 2. Change the setting in the depth drop-down menu, if desired, and click OK to close the panel. Tip: artists and designers often work at higher bit depth to smooth out gradients and access more varying colors. Working at higher bit depth does require more processing, and 8 bits is the minimum depth required for broadcast quality video. Add the composition to the render queue. 1. Make the timeline panel active for the composition to render. 2. Choose composition, add to render queue. Adjust settings in the render queue to determine the kind of file to render. 1. Click Best Settings, blue text, next to the Render Settings heading to access, and change settings like the duration of the area you want to render. Click OK. 2. Click Lossless, blue text, next to the Output module heading to set the kind of file to render. 3. Set the Format drop-down menu to QuickTime, and click the Format Options button to set the codec for the QuickTime file. Click OK. 4. Click the blue text next to the output to heading to set the location and name of the file. Click Save. Here we go, we are done for today. Do not forget to leave your comment down below to help me to improve the content of the channel. See you next time. Goodbye.